Hey, 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 I'm here. Hiya, folks. It's a Sunday, believe it or not, and here I am. Actually, what I'm doing right now is kind of talking gaming stuff, and I never did an end of year thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm here. I'm still alive, brushing off whatever dandruff I have on me, wearing one of my North Texas RPG Con shirts, 2017. And I believe this was the last one that Janelle Jaquays did. But anyway, I'm here and we'll talk about it. Okay, what happened? 2025 has been kind of an interesting year, and not in the bad way either. It's just I don't know. It's kind of like I got some good, I got some bad, I got some sad, I've got some great. You know what I'm saying? And I keep getting some email notifications for some reason. Basically, YouTube telling me I'm on, and I'm on. But anyway, okay. 2025 started out kind of normally. You know what I'm saying? You know, a little depressed, a little bored. Got to be, let's see, had a birthday, of course. You know, happens every year. Got to help. God help me. Um, no gaming. I mean, one game online, a Monday game online, which I'm kind of, well, I'm a little bored with, but I still do it. I mean, these are my friends. The Monday game's been going on for at least 10 years, one way or another. But other than that, I can't get anybody at my table mainly because of where I am. I'm going to be a little bit, try that again. I'm going to be a little bit more proactive about it this next year. And because I got a dining room table that's going to waste. And I really like to run stuff for people. Um, we had one of the main local game stores here. I thought it was the only game store. Um, they went out of business. The guy couldn't do it anymore. He just between his job and this, he just couldn't. It closed like a week before the con, North Texas, and that was sad. I recently found the Block House here, which is kind of it's one of those all-encompassing game stores. They like to do cards. They like to do, the Magic and Pokemon thing, but they also deal somewhat with role-playing games and things like that. And hopefully, maybe I can find some gaming action over there. I really like to do that. Anyway, 2025, I had my birthday, did that, went to North Texas RPG Con. It was special this year because I got to be one of the special guests. And I was so happy for that. I ran my usual gangbusters game, which turned out better than usual. Um, I I started the year going, what the heck am I going to run? I have no idea what I'm going to run. And I came up with an idea and it worked and everybody loved it. I ran it twice and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. As the year went by, um, also my wife retired at the end of May, or was it the end of April? No, the end of May. Yeah. And so that sort of changed the dynamic around here. We have a new house and all this. And so we're basically having to readjust living together 24/7 and dealing with social security. She seemed to have it all planned out budget wise where we can actually, more pay the mortgage and food but it's really, really, really tight, which will affect stuff going on this year, 2026. But anyway, let's see what else happened. Yeah, I published a book, or rather, my friend Don published my book. That I've talked about this in other live streams, other shows, but I'm okay about going over it again. My friend Don Samora of Wizard Tower Games is trying to get his publishing arm going again. Apparently, he'd been a publisher before. He'd stopped for a while, but now he wants to publish. He used to publish, I think, fantasy and sci-fi. So he wanted to start publishing that again, plus like game books, game magazines, a few board games, things like that. And I said, that's great. And I was talking to him on the live stream, and I don't remember what the topic was. I was on there with Eric Tinkar and him, and I don't remember what the topic was, but I happened to mention I wrote a book. And I wrote a book 10 years ago, and I never did anything with it. I just stuck it in a drawer. I did 2 drafts. I started the third one, and then I got bored. And I was doing it on printouts. I wasn't doing it here on the computer. I printed it out on and I just sort of like boom, boom, boom. And then I just stuck it in a drawer, and it's like, okay, fine. Because I was doing National Novel Writing Month because I had never done it. And so I thought I'd challenge myself basically. Can you write a novel in 30 days? Can you write anything in 30 days? Because I really didn't like writing. And I did. But like I said, I proved it to myself. I said, okay, fine. I did. And he said, oh, wow, man, I'd like to read it. And I said, I don't know if I got it here. But then I got a couple of new external hard drives, and I was transferring stuff, and I found it. I found the third draft. And I said, okay, if you want to read it. And I sent it to him, and he absolutely loved it. Not only did he absolutely loved it, he figured, you could publish this. You could sell this. And so I did a couple more drafts. And finally, I got a final draft and gave it to him. And the next thing I know, I'm being published. It came out in December. Wonderful. It's this book right here, which is now out. When the Fat Ark Sings, A Lumper's Adventure by Glenn Hallstrom. This is my book. It's about 200 pages, so it's a novella. I like them short. Fun, and punchy. And it's a fantasy novel that's more Raymond Chandler than J.R.R. Tolkien, because I love the hard-boiled detective noir genre. And so I kind of combined it. Anyway. And well, thank you, Don. He's on there. Is very happy to help me see that I come into print and into online sales channels. Your writing is excellent. Thank you, sir. By the way, it is now available on Amazon website, Barnes and Noble's website, and soon to be on Walmart's website. And eventually, as soon as I get some product in, as soon as I get some copies in, I'm going to be hitting bookstores around here. I got at least 3 Barnes and Nobles I want to hit, plus any mom and pop bookstore, plus game stores. They who knows? They may be interested. I mean, game stores used to handle they used to carry the TSR stuff, the Forgotten Realms and Dragonlance and all that, novels, not just the adventures. So there's that. And we can only go up from here. And I was invited as special guest to WizardCon in Battle Creek, Michigan. WizardCon 2, that Mr. Samora is the guy who runs it. He says, I got kind of involved with Don through Gangbusters, because he was handling Mark Hunt's Gangbusters. And so, okay, fine. And we went back and forth. I helped him a little bit. Now I'm helping him more. I'm editing stuff. I'm having a ball. Yeah, I'm having a ball. Yeah, I guess. But I got involved with him, and like I said, I'll be going in April to WizardCon 2. Cross my fingers. talked about my problems with that before. I don't know if I'll later. I don't want to dwell on it, but um, I'll do that. Of course, I'll be in North Texas again in June, and at the end of June, I will be at the Texomacon in Denison, Texas. At the end of June, they have offered me. They'd want me to come as special guest also. So there's that. And I've got a dog that is really bugging me right now. I probably shouldn't have started this live stream because she wants out. Excuse me. Lady, you want out? Just a moment. Well, here I am again. How about that? You don't see that on the internet every day. Oh, well, what are you going to do? Anyway, I've got a very persistent dog. Let me put it that way. Well, anyway, where was I? So I have 3 cons to go to this next year, and I will be there gaming. He said, "Why don't you come down to WizardCon? We'll just sit around, and I could, sign my book, have my book sold there, play gangbusters, play D&D, just have a ball with me and Mark and him, and I will do whatever I can." And so I had that to look forward to. So the end of the year got really interesting. I have started on my second book. It is kind of a hard climb because, like I said, I wrote that other book 10 years ago, and I really didn't even think about it. So now I'm trying to get back in the groove of writing another Lumpers book. The Lumpers are the adventuring group that I'm dealing with, that it is the main part of the novels. And I'm hoping to turn it into a series, kind of like a pulp series, because there's a lot of action in my book. And oh boy, part 2. But anyway, so what did I think of last year? I thought it was rather interesting. I tried to stay out of the politics as much as possible because, frankly, I hate politics. And I don't say hate very lightly, because to me, I like to say I don't like something or I don't really care for it or something like that, because to me, hate involves effort. And most things that I don't like are not worth my effort. So if somebody asks me, I say I don't like it. But politics, I actually kind of actively hate. My stance is I'm apolitical. And that does not mean I don't have opinions on these things. I do, but I always feel the old adage that opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one. And I don't feel the need to share my opinions with everyone. If I'm asked, I will give them. But as far as that goes, I'm pretty middle of the road. So just take that. Hello, Tonka Todd. That's okay. This was kind of spontaneous. I just saw that I had a banner for like a live stream that I never did at the end of the year, so I'm kind of catching up. And I wasn't doing anything anyway, so here I am. Gaming, I hope, aside from cons, I get to game more this coming year. I feel kind of out of it. I do a lot of live streams and things like that. I'm still trying to get the YouTube videos up. Until then, you got this. Because I just don't feel that, other than the Monday online game, I really don't feel like I'm been much of a gamer over the last few years. It doesn't help being in a small town like Chickasha, Oklahoma, about 30 miles away from Oklahoma City. But at the same, because all my gaming friends are now in Oklahoma City, but at the same time, I feel that there are people around here who do game. So it's just a matter of finding them. And now that I found another place to possibly get some gamers, I'm going to be working on that. Aside from other things, writing my book, trying to find some money, way to make some more money, and all that kind of stuff. Uh, Retirement's been interesting. I've been retired for 20 years, but my wife works, so she's retired now. And so it's been rather interesting. Um, I, I I'm trying to find some kind of side hustle, but I am kind of clueless on that. Being being someone who cannot really stand on their feet for 4 hours or like a part-time job or even 8 anymore. I used to my work experience has mostly been in warehouses. So that means I pretty much wrecked my legs and feet, because basically all these warehouses concrete, concrete 8 to 10 hours a day, which is not good. I've already had flat feet and I got flatter feet now. But medically stuff aside, so and also Becky would like me to stay home and do stuff at home, but I find it hard to find a part-time job at home for home, especially since I am 68, going on 69. And I can do data entry and things like that. And that's what I've been looking for. I just haven't been able to find it around here. I never realized how long I had been out of the job market. And I'm thinking back, like, hindsight is 2020, and it told me, you never should have stopped working. I don't care what anybody or Becky or anybody says about me staying home and take care of the house. I wish I would have stopped. Kept working in some capacity. I mean, like retail is kind of out of it unless I want to put on a vest and say, "Welcome to Walmart." And even then, I'll be on my feet. Um, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I do have to get some money, otherwise I'm not going to be going to WizardCon. That's the only one I'm worried about. The other two I can drive, and I'm hoping to take my grandson Gage with me to those other two in Texas. Um, that'd be a bit much if I had to find some way for both of us to get to Battle Creek. So I'm just going to fly solo on that. Uh, yes, it is a really long drive for me. That's why I want to fly. I'm not opposed to long drives. I've done road trips and stuff before, but I am forbidden to drive a car that far. Um, Becky's right. I do fall asleep on the road. Even when I'm driving, I'm fighting sleeping. And yeah, huh. Have you thought about Todd says, have you thought about DMing maybe once a month for a play to play to pay one shot game? Bet there are folks out there who would be happy to pay the price to be 10 years old again and around a table. Well, as long as it's like around a table and not here online. I just don't do online. I play in an online game. I won't GM an online game for several reasons. I used to say I didn't want to spend time to do the learning curve for something like Roll20 or any of those other game tabletops out there. But I found Owlbear Rodeo and I pretty much figured out how that worked and things. But then I started thinking about it. I want people around my table. I don't want to sit in front of a computer. I want the human connection. It's really important to me. Um, I mean, online gaming is great. You know what I'm saying? Pay to play, yeah. um, but it's always like if you can't get it any other way. And there are a lot of people out there who are living people in towns and places even more remote than I am, and I'm kind of halfway remote. It's about 45-minute drive from the city, Oklahoma City. Um, so I could do it. Say if I had like a game once a week, once every other week. Um, I had my Monday games online, all online now. I have my other game with Matt that I used to play Thursdays. That was in Bethany, which is about the same. If I wanted to drive out every Thursday night to do it, I could probably do it. In fact, I am considering that if I can get a hold of my friend Matt. I can't seem to get a hold of my friend Matt, and I will figure out how to do that. Try and get some of my friends who know him say, hey, how do I get a hold of Matt? Is he still in the same place or what? Besides, I want to give him a copy of my book so he can read it. That'd be a good thing, wouldn't it? So that's the where I am right now in here. You know what I'm saying? That's how I'm doing it. Can I even talk about gaming anymore? I don't know. I mean, I have my own ways of doing. What started it was going to North Texas this last year, because I went there, and afterwards it's like that's the first real face-to-face gaming I've done since the last North Texas. And I just felt, I mean, I couldn't really, can I call myself a GM anymore? I don't know. I really don't know. But I love it. I do love it. I found out in gaming, I would rather game master. I really would. Yes, it's more work, but it's more fun work to me. See, I always think that I have the most fun at the table, even though I know I want everybody to have fun. That's the way I am. I just, you know, whether I'm in front of the screen or behind the screen, I want everyone to have fun. But once, and I'm kind of it's the actor thing in me. I've done a lot of shows where what they call an ensemble cast, where it's like maybe 10 to 12 people in the cast. And I feel that I'm trying to do my part the best I can, but at the same time, I want everyone to shine. Because if everyone shines and does a great job and we're working together and stuff like that, it just elevates the experience for not only the audience, but the cast itself. If you guys are you're clicking on stage like that, it's glorious to see. I can point to at least half a dozen shows I've done where I go, yeah, that's great. You know what I'm saying? And I feel the same way about being in front of a table or at the table. I want everybody to I the way I see game mastering something like gangbusters is, one, I get to show off. I'm an actor, and one of the reasons why I like doing GMing is because I get to play a cast of thousands. I mean, everybody else has got one character. And when I play, it's like, I got one character. Okay. Okay. I know how to do this. But when I'm behind the screen, I got to not only do I have to pay attention to all these NPCs, I got to pay attention to all the players. Same thing. But at the same time, when I'm in it, when I'm describing stuff, when I'm playing an NPC and interacting with the players, my goal, at the bottom, at the end of the day, my goal is to have them be entertained by me and each other, entertaining each other. And the more I get into it, the harder I work to elevate it. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing. When I'm interacting as an NPC with a player, I want to do my best, but I also want them to feel like they can do their best. I mean, yeah, I know there are some players who just want to sit there and react. I really don't have any problem with that. At least they're engaging with the game. You know what I'm saying? But I've had times, and mostly it's been gangbusters, but D&D too, where I'm on a roll as an NPC, they're on a roll as a character, and it just goes back and forth. You know what I'm saying? I've played, I played all kinds of like fighters or wizards or like bootleggers and gangsters and things like that, where I'm playing this gangster, they're playing, say, a cop, and we're going back and forth in the precinct, with the light on and all that kind of stuff. And I can just, you can feel it. And the player can feel it, I can feel it, and the other players, if they're paying attention, and they should be, are feeling it too. Just this, like this. The one thing I have to remember to do is to don't carry it too far. And what I mean by don't carry it too far is the fact that if I'm interacting with a player character as an NPC, give them their interaction, give them their due, but don't forget there are other people at the table. You know what I'm saying? But I've spent like 10 to 15 minutes with another player reacting, and everybody else is going, yeah, yeah. Okay, they're entertained. I'm fine. But I always got to keep everybody in mind at the table. There are so many things I got to keep in my head when I'm doing it, but it's okay. Now, I rely on myself more than I probably should. What I mean by that is I prep. I prep like any other GM, but I don't prep a lot. I'm more of a lazy GM. I don't prep a lot because I prep time should be used to prep you, not the game, you, for the game. And what I mean by that is, okay, I've got an adventure. Say I'm doing an adventure that I came up with. Okay, I've got the main plot in my head. What's going to happen on my end? Hi Terry, how are you? Yeah, it was sort of an ad hoc thing. Sorry, but when I say when I prep, it's like I try right now while I prep. I used to many years ago. I used to stress out over the whole thing, but I don't do that anymore. I learned to rely on myself at the table. But what I do prep is things like, okay, here's the main plot. And I don't even call it a plot. I call it a framework, because a plot is something where you're right. Like I'm writing my book. Okay. And that's a plot because I got to do everything. A framework is where you've got things that are going to happen in the game, but you got to leave the players open. You're prepping situations, and when they're at the table, they're what they bring as characters, and they react, I react. But what I got to pray, like I said, a framework, locations, NPCs, any monsters, map, stocking stuff, and I could even go, what's happening around the land, but I don't. I don't do that anymore. What happens is I make sure I prep for a game. I know when I'm going to have the game. I make sure I prep for it, and then I step back. I have to say to myself, okay, stop. That's it. You're done. Okay? Otherwise, I'd be there until the end of time and not get any sleep. And that's not good. I feel that GMs should do more of that. It's got to be, you got to be, and I've developed my chops over the years. It's like I know how to ad lib. I know I can prepare to ad lib. That's what I basically say I do. I'm preparing to ad lib. I've got the information in front of me. Okay, fine. I know the areas. I know the NPCs. I know I got this. Okay, do your worst, guys. Let's see what happens. I do have some. I do kind of prep a little in my head about the situations on what I would do if they do this. What if I do if they do that? But I know player characters are never, hardly ever going to do what you think they're going to do. Sometimes they do. And I'm not above giving them hints, but I got to crouch the hints in a certain way where I don't feel like I'm telling them what to do. You know what I'm saying? Uh, let's see. Tonka Todd, when prepping to run a game, I always go over the board trying to come up with multiple D12 random encounter tables based on location, terrain. Great. I love random encounter tables. You know what I use random encounter tables for? For me. I use random encounter tables because sometimes I feel like things are going along, they're doing fine, and I try and trip myself up because I'm trying to stay fresh. And they're in an area, I will roll a random encounter and see what it says. And in my mind, when somebody says, I'm going to do this, and other GMs go, you get the deer in the headlights look. Well, wait a minute. You do. No, no, not anymore. Nope. No. I roll a random encounter and I look at that, or they throw something at me that I don't expect. And the first thing I think in my mind is, would that be more fun? Would that be more fun? In extreme cases, I take a break. I take a break. We take a break for like 10 minutes and I just work on something that they gave me or I rolled. And then when we come back, I'm ready for it. But I don't mind being put on the spot behind that screen. I really don't. It's almost what I live for now. Here's my game. Screw it up. You know what I'm saying? But that, like I said, that's me. And that's what makes a fun game. Okay? You got it? And that's why I saw Joe the lawyer's like, I hate random encounters and stuff like that. Not me. No, sir. I love random encounters. It makes my game better. Players make my game better. I love it when I can feel that at the end of the session or the end of the campaign, we made this. Not me. We all made this story. And people are going to remember it. And hopefully there'll be good times. You know what I'm saying? Good times. That's what I love about this. And as far as pay to play, Tonka, you know what I think about paid GMs? Nice work if you can get it. Some people make a career out of it. I don't doubt them for that. Hello, Dave. How you doing? How you doing over there over the pond? This is my friend David Thompson. I know him from he shows up. He shows up on our live streams. Plus, is it cold out there? I imagine. He shows up on our Discord server too to talk, and I always get a good. He's fun. Right now, Dave, in Chickasha, Oklahoma, it is now 50 degrees. It was 39 degrees. Okay, we're ranging around here from the high is 54 today and the low is 31. Okay, now by Wednesday we're going to go to 27. Same with Saturday, but it fluctuates. It's kind of a weird winter this year. We're still waiting for the snow. There's no snow yet, and because it hasn't gotten cold yet, really cold. Yes, you're right, Wizard Tal. The successful play-to-play GMs are more technically enabled as they can offer a lot of dazzle and visual content. That's right. Another reason is I am set in my ways. You want a pay-to-play game out of me, it's not going to be the current one. It's going to be BX, BECME, first edition, second edition, Gangbusters, old stuff. You got it? So I just try and make that clear. That's why I don't really get involved in that, because nobody wants to play that, at least pay to play that. So, like I said, nice work if you can get it. I'm not putting any shade on people who actually can do this. But like I've given you, like, okay, GM philosophy, I do that anyway. I was going to say last year I gave you a lot of advice. Well, I do that anyway. So, and my camera's getting real weird. It keeps like out of focus, in focus, weird. But what's going on next year? I've got up until the end of June. I'm got a lot on my plate as far as, like, things that, 3 cons, working on a book, um, trying to figure out what I need to do to get where I need, and all that, stuff like that. I'm working on a GoFundMe. Yes. Only I could screw it up right off the bat. I went to GoFundMe to see if, anybody would like help me out trying to get to WizardCon. And so I put something in there. I make it live. The next thing you know, oh, we're pausing your GoFundMe because you're asking for things that we don't allow. And I try to correct it, and I can't do anything with it while it's paused. So it's kind of like balls in their court. I'm thinking of making another GoFundMe to address the situation, but I'll deal with that Monday. I want to see what happens Monday. Dave has suggested doing a Kickstarter, but I'll look into it. It just doesn't seem like something Kickstarter worthy, trying to ask people to help me pay for a plane ticket. But I will look into that. I'm kind of like, I'm not comfortable doing GoFundMe in the first place, but I wish it would have went off right away. I was going to give out books. If you'd have donated like $50 or more to me for this, my goal was 1,000. But I wanted to say, if you donated $50 or more, I will send you an autographed copy of my book. But apparently GoFundMe doesn't like stuff like that. It's more like too much like a sweepstakes or a lottery or something. So that's why they flagged me. But hopefully I can get that resolved in like this next week. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I sometimes online still confuses me. Oh, let's see. David, I first saw pay to play GM's advertising in my local games workshop around 84-ish. Never heard of anyone taking them up on it, though. Since we had a large RPG club, there are always games going. Yeah, that's another reason. I mean, what can you offer to them that would not make them go down to like a game store or some other place like that and try and get a group going for nothing? Who knows? Like I said, it's an iffy thing. I'm not throwing shit on people who do it, but they got the resources. They want to deal with the current edition of whatever. And another reason why I'm an old school gamer is because, one, I love it, and two, I don't have to keep up with anything. All these guys are doing like the current edition or whatever. They got to keep up with this stuff to make their business viable. And I don't. Look at this. See all those books back there? That's just like, that bookcase is about a third of it of mine. So, like I said, I've got the stuff. And to me, if you want to pay me to run a game that's really good old school, if you love that kind of stuff and you don't mind your character dying, then that's okay. I will do it. I will do it. I don't want to. I've done it for free a lot. Yeah. Okay. But like I said, if you want to pay me to do it, here I am. And it won't be online. It'll be face to face. Have game, will travel. You know what I'm saying? But 2025 has been really, really interesting. like I told you before, I'm apolitical. I don't like dealing with politics, but I have thought you can't help but see it. So, and none of that gets into my games. Um, yeah, none of it. I'm gonna say none of it. I was thinking about the last Gangbusters game I ran, but that was more of an inspiration. And I get a lot of my inspiration from the movies. Uh, and as you can tell, even in fantasy, I get it from the movies. I like to take westerns and adapt them into a D&D game. That's fun. I've done the one I've done the most is, excuse me, Rio Bravo. Rio Bravo is great because it's like you got the bad guy in the jail and you're stuck in the jail and you got to protect him until the big, you know, the big law people come in, say the king's the king's men, that kind of thing before, and you got to keep people from trying to attack the jail to get them out. And that's a lot of fun. Also, I've got a whole bunch. I've got okay, everybody knows I'm a film buff too. I've got a whole shelf up there of old exploitation, public domain, um, Mill Creek movie sets. And a certain portion of those are classic Westerns, but I've got a lot of spaghetti Westerns. And spaghetti Westerns are fun to adapt. I've done that before. That's a lot of fun. I adapted a spaghetti Western into a Hyperborea game that was absolutely incredible. It was great. I had a lot of fun doing it. And so I watch those and I look at the plots. And I remember, and it's funny how you can do an adaptation of something and totally change it. I did but I watched a spaghetti Western of, I can't remember something where the desert and the Winchester or whatever it is, but basically it was a Western version of Treasure Island. And it worked. It worked. Instead of pirate treasure, you have treasure from the leftover from the Civil War that everybody's looking that the bad guys are looking for. Um, and the guy who played, it's funny, the guy who played basically the Long John Silver part, his legs were fine and stuff, but he had a metal arm. He had a thing going over his. He had I don't know if he had no arm but he had a handicapped arm, and that was his thing. And I thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, stuff like that you can adapt. You got to learn. You should learn to adapt and reskin. A good GM knows how to reskin too. My friend, Full On Gamer, he's like the master at reskinning. He said he took Ravenloft and turned it into a sci-fi game. Ravenloft Planet Ravenloft, or something like that. And he turned that into I think it was Traveler. Was it Traveler or Star Frontier? I think it was Traveler. And he did very well with that. Tonka, I once played in a one-shot BX game based solely on John Wayne's movie, The War Wagon. It was extremely fun. See, yeah, it's amazing how those can be adapted to fantasy very easily. Very easily. Another thing that's different, my fantasy games that are different, is I have black powder. Yep. I have black powder in my games. Yeah. I have pistols. We have pistols. We have rifles. We have cannons. And it's not, I don't have a 6-gun or a 45 or something like. No, it's like cap and ball and muskets, things like that. I love that kind of thing because, yes, you do have firearms, but they're not as reliable as the ones today. Not at all. My character Lojak in the next book will have firearms. He has a bandolero of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 flintlock pistols. And all he does is he takes a pistol, he goes boom, whether he hits or not, and then he charges in with his sword. because that's all it's got one shot, and they're not very accurate. Uh, and that's the way you used to use them, you know. I've got a friend of mine has a prop flintlock pistol, which doesn't work. It's just a, but it's great because and my character's pistols also has a at the end of it in the grip it's a like a big metal ball and such. So you go bang and then you flip it over and come at them with the like you're beating them to death. That works too. See, I don't think, and as far as like they're always saying that, oh, plate armor isn't defensive that much to regular firearms. Maybe so, but you can jerry the firearms so they're not, or make the plate armor tougher. You know that. Dave Thompson went through the Blade Runner storyline in RuneQuest, Necromancer making undead replica. Oh, nice. He said he's used samurai plotline, Shakespeare, so many movie plots, all available and easily converted / adapted. Tunka, got to run? Okay. Have fun. Have fun doing your honeydew list. I love those. Thank you for thank you. You're welcome. Thank you for showing up. Yes, even Shakespeare is good too. I mean, hell, they use that for modern movies. There have been modern adaptations of Shakespeare. There was, like I said, like Kurosawa did Throne of Blood, which was basically Macbeth, the Scottish play in samurai, in feudal Japan. I've also seen it done was it Joe Macbeth, as a gangster film. And the Professor Dungeon Master for his games, he has it out there a module. He's got like Hamlet he done for a module for fantasy, and Frankenstein, his take on Frankenstein as a module for D&D, which I think that if I remember correctly, TSR put out one called Adam's Revenge, because they do have a Dr. Frankenstein in Ravenloft. And it was kind of like their version of Frankenstein, where the player characters become flesh golems, and they've got to stop Adam, which was the original Frankenstein monster, from doing whatever to the doctor and whatever. So he will put them back into their bodies. That I was entertained by reading it, but at the same time, how many players are you ever going to convince them of this? Because it kind of like borders on. Here's something funny about players. They don't like loss of control. And I've been a player long enough to say, to a certain point, I can't blame them. But there are certain games out here where they have to have the initial loss of control in order to get control. You ever see where they play like you're in a cell with nothing and you have to break out and get your stuff? There's a old AD&D module like that, where you don't even know what your class is until you get out and find stuff and use it. And I can do that. Okay, I'm a fighter now. Okay, I'm a thief now. That kind of thing. And I don't know very many players who like those kinds. They don't. I mean, when I used to play Champions all the time, that was kind of burned in my head. How do you capture a hero? How do you capture a player character? Well, the thing is, you start with them being captured. That's how you do it. That's because everybody else is, hey, Death Angel, how you doing? How you doing, Jeff? And you nobody ever likes it because they always want to be in control of their player. And there are things out there in games where you're not. Lycanthropy. What if your character contracts lycanthropy? You are going to lose control of your character for a certain amount of time. You are. Getting captured, because especially like in Champions where you're dealing with superheroes, any superhero game, they will fight till the very end to not get captured or not get, no, we don't do that. You know what I'm saying? Dave said he ran a game inspired by constables painting the Haywain. I'm trying to remember. I don't think I've ever seen the Haywain. I may have to Google that. Hold on. Go on. I'm sure Wikipedia has it out there. But yeah, it's. But like I said, they don't like losing control. So I'm interested to see what Professor Dungeon Master did with his Frankenstein thing. I don't know, something like Hamlet. I know you can do it, but you got to walk. I mean, look at, there are even Shakespeare is interesting because there are adaptations of Shakespeare. Yeah, Death Angel, but my agency, exactly. But they're adaptations of Shakespeare, but they're also, adaptations that are like Shakespeare. It's not really Shakespeare, it's Shakespearean. One adaptation is 10 Things I Hate About You is basically Taming of the Shrew with high school kids. But anyway, getting back Shakespearean, you've seen The Godfather and the Godfather trilogy, basically. At least, especially the first one, very, very. I watch that and I get Shakespearean vibes, because you have the old king and the successor, that kind of thing. Godfather is very Shakespearean. First time I saw The Lion King. Yeah, that's very, very Shakespearean. So it's kind of interesting that way. Oh, come on, Jeff. Give me that. Yeah, so I get inspired, mostly film. I've ranted about Appendix N before, about how I'm not very, very much of those. But I can see how they're useful for people who are bibliophiles who like to read a lot of fiction. I don't read a lot of fiction. That's why I find it weird that I wrote a fiction book. Because whenever I would read when I was growing up, I would read film books. I would read, nonfiction, things like that. So it's interesting how far we have come. Anyway, I think I'm going to have to wrap this up here. Some movement out there, and I am kind of hungry. So anyway, you guys probably want some lunch yourself if you haven't eaten already. So thank you, everybody, for coming today. And Dave, Don, all you people, thank you. Just tell people you don't want to be unduly influenced by others' works. Yes, it's 7 p.m. there. So Dave, go get dinner. And thank you, sir. I'm glad I could do that. So you could do that. You see it during a reasonable hour. And I hope you guys all have a good Sunday. I think Don said something about he had something for me to do, and I don't know what that is, but I will find out soon enough. Everyone, here's my book. Yep. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, soon Walmart, $10.99. Great value. Great value. So, anyway, I will see you folks later. I think the next time I will be on is Tuesday. Bye, Dave. I will be on Tuesday during the day with my friend Don from Wizard Tower Games and maybe Eric Tenkar. I don't know. So you guys have a great Sunday. Hope you have a good week. And this has been my wrap up of 2025, sort of, kind of. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.